My name is Madison Lee. I'm 29 years old. 3 weeks ago, I thought my life was stable. Not perfect, but solid. The kind of solid you build plans on. The kind where you start saying next year without fear. The kind where engagement rings become a realistic conversation instead of a fantasy. Ethan and I had been together for 2 years. We'd lived together for 8 months in a downtown 2-bedroom apartment with exposed brick, overpriced rent, and a future we both pretended was inevitable. Both our names were on the lease. We split groceries. We argued about laundry. Normal relationship progression stuff. That illusion collapsed in 10 minutes on a Monday evening. October 14th. I got home around 6:30 p.m., kicked off my shoes, and immediately noticed something was wrong. Ethan was sitting at the kitchen table, not scrolling, not eating, not half watching something on his phone. He was surrounded by papers, printed articles, highlighted paragraphs, handwritten notes. His laptop was open, angled just enough that I could see a slide deck title reflected faintly in the window. He looked prepared, focused, like someone about to deliver a presentation he'd practiced in the shower. "Hey," I said slowly, opening the fridge. "What's all this?" "I've been doing some reading," he replied, his voice calm, too calm, "about relationship structures, modern connection philosophy. I need to talk to you about something important." I grabbed a drink and sat across from him, already bracing myself. Vacation plans, money stuff, maybe he wanted to move. The table was covered in phrases that made my stomach tighten. Ethical non-monogamy, polyamory frameworks, deconstructing possessive love. "What kind of workshop is this?" I asked. He inhaled deeply, like he was about to say something sacred. "I've been attending this conscious relationship workshop for the past month. It's really opened my eyes." That's when the late nights made sense. The sudden group discussions. The way he'd stopped holding my hand in public. "I've realized," he continued carefully, "that monogamy is an outdated, oppressive social construct." I blinked. "Come again?" Traditional monogamy was created by patriarchal systems to control people's sexuality. It limits human potential, authentic connection. He said it like it was math. Like anyone who disagreed just hadn't done the reading. "So what are you saying?" I asked. He leaned forward. "I want us to evolve past traditional monogamy. I want to explore connections with other people while maintaining what we have." "You want to sleep with other people?" "I want us to be free," he corrected. "Free to form authentic connections without artificial constraints." "And you already have someone in mind," I said. A flicker of hesitation crossed his face. "There might be someone I've connected with." "Of course there was. And you expect me to be okay with this?" "I think," he said gently, condescendingly, "you should be grateful I'm including you in this, instead of just ending things." Grateful. For being asked to share the man I loved with another woman who'd convinced him betrayal was enlightenment. "You should be grateful I'm letting you share me," he said. That was the moment something inside me went quiet. I nodded. "You're right," I said softly. His face lit up with relief. And that's when I decided to leave. Not loudly, not emotionally, but completely. I didn't raise my voice. That seemed to surprise him the most. Most people, he'd probably been warned, reacted with jealousy, possessiveness, tears, anger. The workshops had prepared him for resistance. Scripts for how to calmly explain why the other person's pain was actually just conditioning. What they hadn't prepared him for was agreement. "I'm really glad you understand," Ethan said, his shoulders visibly relaxing. "I was worried you'd react emotionally." Emotionally. As if love was a glitch in the system. "I just want you to be happy," I replied. And that part was true, just not in the way he thought. He smiled like a man who believed he'd just won a moral debate. We spent the next 20 minutes talking through what he called frameworks. Ground rules, communication protocols, weekly check-ins, radical honesty, emotional boundaries, safe practices. It sounded like the rules of a game he'd memorized so well he forgot games were optional. I nodded at the appropriate moments, asked neutral questions, let him talk. Inside, something else was happening. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even heartbroken yet. I was detaching. The way you do when you realize the person in front of you isn't who you thought they were, not temporarily confused, not making a mistake, but proudly standing on a new identity that leaves no room for you unless you shrink. Around 9 p.m., I stood up. "I need to go for a drive," I said, "just to process." He looked pleased. That's really healthy. Taking time for mindful reflection instead of reacting. I grabbed my keys. "I'll be back later." I didn't specify when. I drove straight to my friend Lauren's apartment. She opened the door, took one look at my face, and stepped aside without asking questions. 10 minutes later, I was sitting on her couch with a blanket around my shoulders, staring at a wall I didn't have to share with anyone's philosophy. He wants to open their relationship, I said flatly, and told me I should be grateful. Lauren didn't hesitate. He's already cheating, she said. Emotionally, at least. This is just permission seeking. I know. So what are you going to do? I stared at my phone, face down on the table. I'm going to let him be free. Lauren raised an eyebrow. That sounds dangerous. For him, I said. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. Because once you realize you're not fighting for the relationship anymore, the anxiety stops. The noise clears. You stop negotiating with someone who's already decided you're optional. The next morning, I didn't go home. I went to work. At lunch, I called our landlord. I asked what it would take to remove my name from the lease. The answer was simple, annoying, and completely manageable. 30 days notice. Either Ethan qualified on his own, or he found a replacement tenant. I thanked him, hung up, and felt something settle into place. This wasn't impulse. This was logistics. That evening, Ethan texted me, "How's your reflection going?" I replied, "Helpful. I think space will be good for both of us." He sent back a heart emoji. I stared at it for a long time. Then I turned my phone face down again. Over the next few days, I moved quietly. I packed essentials when Ethan was at his workshops. Clothes, documents, my laptop, jewelry. Sentimental things he wouldn't notice missing right away. Lauren helped me rent a small storage unit across town. We stacked my life into labeled boxes, each one lighter than the last. The hardest part wasn't the moving. It was realizing how easily I could leave. How little resistance there was once I stopped hoping he'd change. On Thursday evening, I submitted my written notice to the landlord. Ethan was out late again. Some kind of weekend intensive retreat, according to the shared calendar we hadn't updated yet. While he was busy learning how to dismantle artificial limitations, I was dismantling my presence from his life. That night, I sat at Lauren's kitchen table and stared at a blank page. There was one more thing I needed to do. One thing that felt heavy, but necessary. Ethan had spent our entire relationship complaining about his upbringing, his father, the rigid values, the judgment. But he'd also forgotten something important. Ideas don't exist in a vacuum. And when you reshape your life around them, they ripple outward, whether you want them to or not. I began to write, carefully, calmly. No insults, no accusations, just the truth. By the time I finished, my hands were steady. I folded the letter, placed it in an envelope, and sealed it. Some conversations don't need to happen face to face. Some truths land harder when they arrive quietly. By Saturday, Ethan was gone for what he called a weekend intensive. He said it the way people say church retreat or leadership conference, like the words themselves proved it was pure. He kissed my forehead before he left as if we were still normal. "Proud of you," he murmured, "for being open-minded." I smiled back. Because smiling is easy when you're already halfway out the door. The second his car pulled away, Lauren and I moved fast. Not frantic, not chaotic. Efficient. We carried boxes down the stairs, loaded her trunk twice, then drove across town to the storage unit. I packed, like someone who'd been preparing for a fire she smelled weeks ago. Important documents, electronics, anything sentimental, anything expensive, anything I couldn't replace. And then, the strangest part, I left enough behind so the apartment still looked like us. A few sweaters in the closet, some books on the shelf, my toothbrush in the cup like a decoy, a blanket on the couch. The visual lie of a life still being lived. Because if Ethan noticed too early, he'd try to negotiate. And I wasn't leaving space for negotiation. Sunday night, after the last box was stacked, I sat at Lauren's table and stared at the sealed envelope again. It had no drama in it. No insults. No revenge language. Just facts. Because facts don't give you something to argue with. Ethan's father was the kind of man who built his reputation on certainty. Pastor Daniel Caldwell, leader of a large Baptist church across town. Community figure, suit and smile on Sundays. The kind of man people ask to pray at public events. Ethan had spent 2 years telling me his father was controlling, judgmental, stuck in old world thinking. And maybe he was. But Ethan had also spent 2 years taking his father's money when he needed it, his father's advice when it benefited him, and his father's name when it opened doors. You don't get to reject someone's values and still hide behind their respectability. Not when you're asking your girlfriend to be grateful you're sharing yourself. I rewrote the letter twice, removing any line that sounded like bitterness. Then I printed it. I included a few materials Ethan had left scattered around the apartment, glossy flyers for the program, a philosophy statement, and a workshop schedule with the facilitator's name at the bottom. Serena Vale. That was the woman Ethan said he'd connected with, one of the leaders. the voice on the podcast he played in the shower, the person who'd convinced him that commitment was oppression and that betrayal could be reframed as personal evolution. I didn't say Serena was evil. I didn't have to. I simply wrote, Ethan told me he believes monogamy is oppressive and outdated. He said he intends to pursue other romantic connections while maintaining our relationship. He also disclosed he has formed an intimate connection with a workshop facilitator named Serena Vale. No embellishment, no emotional language. Just the truth laid out like evidence on a table. On Monday, October 21st, exactly 1 week after Ethan's presentation, I walked into the post office and mailed it. The clerk weighed the envelope and asked if I wanted tracking. Yes, I said, because some choices deserve receipts. That night, my phone started buzzing. Ethan. Then again, and again. I waited until the fourth call before I answered, because I wanted to hear how fast the tone changed when he realized he didn't have control anymore. Madison, he said, breathless. Where are you? At Lauren's. What do you mean at Lauren's? Are you coming home tonight? I glanced at the ceiling, like I could see the future through it. I needed space, I said calmly. Mindful reflection, remember? That's not... He stopped himself, swallowed, softened his voice. Okay, but I noticed some of your things are missing. Oh. What do you mean, oh? Your books, your laptop stand, your jewelry box. I moved some stuff. His voice tightened. Why? I let a beat pass, the way he'd done at the table when he wanted his words to land. You said you wanted to explore new arrangements, I said. I thought you might want more space. Madison, that's not what I meant. I meant relationship structures, not living arrangements. Same thing, I replied. Hard to maintain artificial limitations when you're sharing a bedroom. Silence. Then, quietly, like he was suddenly terrified of the consequences of his own ideology. I don't want you to move out. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was predictable. I'm not moving out, I corrected. I already did. His breathing went sharp. We're supposed to navigate this together. There's nothing to navigate, I said. You made a choice about what kind of relationship you want. That's not a choice, he insisted, voice rising. It's growth. And I'm choosing my own, I said softly, without you. He called 17 times after that. I didn't answer again. I turned off my phone and let the silence hold me. Tuesday was apartment hunting. Wednesday morning, I got the call I'd been expecting. A number I didn't recognize. I answered anyway. Madison Lee? A man's voice asked. Yes. This is Pastor Daniel Caldwell. My stomach didn't drop. It steadied. Because now the truth had reached the person Ethan had been pretending he didn't care about. I received your letter, Pastor Caldwell said, and there was something in his voice, controlled disbelief, the kind of disbelief that tries to stay polite. Is what you wrote accurate? Yes, sir, I said. That's exactly what Ethan told me. A pause. And he said monogamy is oppressive. He used that word, I confirmed. He said it was outdated and controlling, that he should be free to pursue other connections. Another pause, heavier. And he's involved with a woman named Serena Vale. He said they've shared intimate moments, I replied carefully. He said he wanted to explore it further. Pastor Caldwell exhaled slowly, as if he were trying not to let anger turn into a raised voice. I appreciate your honesty, he said, even if it's painful. I didn't want to hurt your family, I said, and I meant it. But I also didn't want to be part of something hidden. I understand, he said, and his tone sharpened slightly. Ethan will be coming to speak with me. After we hung up, I sat very still. Because the letter was never meant to destroy Ethan. It was meant to do one thing, remove his ability to rewrite the story. By Wednesday afternoon, the consequences hit my front door. Not literally. Worse. My workplace. Our receptionist buzzed my extension. Madison, there's a man in the lobby asking for you. He seems upset. I stood, smoothed my blouse, and walked out. And there he was. Ethan, eyes red, face tight, like he'd been crying and raging in equal measure. He took one step toward me, voice cracking. My dad called me this morning, he hissed. What did you do? I looked at him the way you look at someone who's finally hearing the echo of their own words. I told the truth, I said. And that's when Ethan realized something that terrified him. His personal growth journey had just become public. Madison, Ethan said urgently, lowering his voice as if volume was the problem. We need to talk, now. This isn't the place, I replied, keeping my tone even. I could feel eyes on us already. The receptionist pretending not to stare, my manager hovering near his office door. My father thinks I joined a cult, Ethan said, panic breaking through his practice calm. You sent him workshop materials. I sent him exactly what you showed me, I said. Your words, your beliefs. That wasn't for him, Ethan snapped. That was personal. No, I corrected. It was foundational. You said this is who you are now. His jaw tightened. You made me look insane. I didn't make you look like anything, I said quietly. I stopped protecting you from the consequences of your choices. His voice cracked. You didn't have to involve my family. You involved them the moment you asked me to be grateful for being shared, I said. Families feel things like that eventually. He took a step closer, too close. I told you I was confused, he said. I was exploring ideas. You told me monogamy was oppressive, I replied. You told me I was conditioned. You told me I should be grateful you weren't just leaving me. My manager appeared beside us. Everything okay here? He asked gently. Yes, I said immediately. Ethan was just leaving. Ethan looked at me like I'd slapped him. Madison, he said, desperation leaking into his voice. Please, we can talk tonight, somewhere private. I shook my head. I don't think that's a good idea. Just give me a chance to explain. You already did, I said, in detail, with citations. He stood there for a moment longer, breathing hard, then finally backed away. I'll call you, he said. I know, I replied. And he did. 17 times that night. Texts, too. Long ones, short ones. Apologies wrapped in defensiveness. Confessions tangled with excuses. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. You're misunderstanding what the workshop teaches. My dad overreacted. You blindsided me. I read none of them. Thursday morning, I signed a lease on a one-bedroom apartment across town. Different neighborhood, different energy. Starting fresh mattered. By Friday, the social fallout began. Lauren sent me screenshots of Ethan's posts. Articles about how some people can't handle their partner's growth. Quotes about toxic control disguised as commitment. Vague posts about being abandoned by someone who claimed to love him. He didn't tag me. He didn't have to. Anyone who knew us could read between the lines. Saturday, his father called again. Madison, Pastor Caldwell said, his voice tired now. I wanted to update you. I listened quietly. Ethan is coming home for a while. He's stepping back from these workshops, taking time to reconsider. That sounds wise, I said. He asked me to reach out, the pastor continued. He wants to apologize. I exhaled slowly. I appreciate that, I said, but there's nothing to apologize for. He was honest about what he wanted. And what was that? Pastor Caldwell asked. Freedom, I replied, with a safety net. Silence. I believe relationships work best with mutual commitment, the pastor said carefully. So do I replied. You're a good woman, he said. I'm sorry my son put you in this position. The following Tuesday evening, Ethan finally called from his own number instead of a blocked one. I answered. I've been thinking, he said immediately. I'm sure you have. I think I got caught up in ideas that weren't really me. Okay. The facilitator, he continued. Serena. She was very persuasive. I almost laughed again. Persuasive how? She made it sound like monogamy was this cage, like wanting commitment meant fear. And now, he said slowly, I'm starting to wonder if she was just manipulating people. I leaned back against my kitchen counter, staring at a space that was mine alone. What changed? I asked. When things got complicated, he admitted. When my family found out. When you moved out. Serena became less interested. There it was. So when consequences arrived, I said, the philosophy stopped working. He didn't deny it. She said she couldn't be responsible for breaking up families, he said quietly, that it had become too much drama. So she walked away, I said. Yes. And now you're calling me. Another silence. I made a huge mistake, he said. I love you, Madison. I want to be with you. You loved me 3 weeks ago, I replied. That didn't stop you. I was confused. No, I said gently. You were honest. That's the difference. I don't want an open relationship anymore, he said quickly. No workshops, no exploring, just us. Until the next person convinces you commitment is oppression, I said. That won't happen again. How do I know that? He had no answer. We talked for 20 minutes. It kept circling the same truth. He wanted to undo a decision that hadn't gone the way he expected, and I wanted a partner who wouldn't make that decision in the first place. By the time we hung up, I knew what the final part of this story would be. And it wasn't reconciliation. The quiet after that phone call wasn't dramatic. No tears, no rage, no sudden epiphany where I realized I couldn't live without him. Just clarity. The kind that settles in your chest and doesn't move. Ethan stayed with his parents. I heard it through mutual friends before he told me himself. Apparently, he was taking a break from social media, recentering his values, and going to counseling. Church counseling. The irony didn't escape me. A week later, his sister messaged me. Then a cousin. Then a friend I barely knew, but had apparently been told I was emotionally overwhelmed and needed time. I didn't correct them. I didn't need to. Because the story Ethan wanted to tell only worked if I played my role as the woman who'd overreacted. And I wasn't interested in auditioning. Ethan called again on a Tuesday evening. His voice sounded smaller this time, quieter, like someone who'd finally run out of arguments and was hoping tone alone could save him. "What would it take," he asked, "for you to give us another chance?" I didn't answer right away, because I wanted to be honest, not kind. "I don't know if there is anything," I said finally. "That's not fair," he said weakly. "It's exactly fair," I replied. "You didn't just ask for an open relationship, you asked me to be grateful for being disrespected." "I know," he said. "I understand that now." "Do you?" I asked. "Or do you understand that it didn't work out the way you thought it would?" Silence. "You didn't want to lose me," I continued. "You wanted to add someone else and keep me as security. When that option disappeared, you panicked." "That's not how I meant it," he said. "It doesn't matter how you meant it," I said. "It matters what you were willing to do." He started crying. Actual crying. Not the performative kind. The messy, quiet kind. I felt sorry for him. But pity is not the same thing as trust. "What happened to Serena?" I asked gently. He exhaled shakily. "She stopped responding," he admitted. "Said she needed to protect her peace." "Of course she did." "So the person who taught you that love isn't about possession," I said, "walked away the moment things got inconvenient." "Yes. And now you want to come back to the woman you said was trapped in outdated thinking." "I was wrong about everything," he said. "The workshops, Serena, what I wanted." "No," I corrected softly. "You were right about one thing." "What?" "You wanted freedom. You just didn't want the cost." That landed. He didn't argue after that. We stayed on the line a little longer, talking in circles until there was nothing left to say. When we hung up, I didn't feel victorious. I felt done. A week later, I unpacked the last box in my new apartment. I hung my pictures. I arranged my books. I bought a plant I'd probably forget to water and a couch no one else got to vote on. Starting fresh wasn't about erasing Ethan. It was about choosing compatibility over chemistry. Because love isn't supposed to feel like a negotiation where your dignity is the bargaining chip. Someone who can throw away years of commitment after a few weeks of ideological validation isn't someone you build a future with, no matter how sincerely they regret it afterward. Ethan will find someone who wants to be part of his journey toward authentic connection. That person just won't be me. And for the first time in weeks, I slept in a space that belonged entirely to me. No frameworks, no gratitude required. Just peace.